Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm going to talk about government contracting. I'm going to talk about how to initially set up through the SAMS.gov system, the DUNS number, the cage number, different coding that you can use, so that way you can actually get listings. And then I'm going to talk about what the paperwork you need in order to actually start doing proposals. And then also some of the ways, if your company is small, that you can join in with other companies to get larger contracts. So the very beginning is the SAMS.gov. Please only use SAM dot gov. There's some other entities out there that will try to charge you for it. This is a free system. If it does not have a .gov behind it, then it is a fake system. Or it's not. It may not be fake. They just want more money out of you. So this is the system. And then you would start by pressing this button and get started. The information should be relatively easy, pretty quick. This is where you can request your DUNS number. Requesting your DUNS number is free. There is the Duns and Bradstreet. Um, you can register a DUNS number through them to develop company credit. There is a difference between personal credit, where you know your regular credit card score and stuff like that, and then you can also develop company credit. So if your personal credit card score is low and you're trying to apply for a loan, you're trying to apply for other lines of credit, you can actually use your company's credit, um, and that will be a lot more beneficial. If your personal credit is good, then you can also utilize that, but those are two different things. One more thing to say with Duns and Bradstreet, they do offer a comprehensive, larger plan where you can upload paperwork, your lease agreements, and stuff like that to make your credit score um, better for free. And then they also have a sort of a plan that you can do. No sense of getting the plan. I'm not saying it's a ripoff. I haven't personally used it, but when it's free, it's worked for me. And we've gotten loans and we've gotten company credit cards by using Duns and Bradstreet and uploading the documents for free too. So now enough about that. Um, yes, you just click through here. You'll need an EIN number. You'll need tax verification forms. You'll need insurance verification forms and stuff like that in order for you to register. So one of the companies that I own is a CPR AED business. So we have a $2 million liability form. And this is a sample of our insurance that we have through Accord. If you want a certain discount off from Accord, please email us and we can provide that for you. And here we go, general aggregate $2 million liability. This is sort of how it's set up and things like that through the CPR AED company. I highly recommend this company. We've used it for God knows how long, probably too long. Probably should check some other companies out. And it's pretty affordable, especially for CPR AED. We do lifeguarding, we do wilderness first aid, and a bunch of other stuff. So that's how you get the DUNS number, which is through here, and then the SAMS number. The NAICS code will vary. So the 611699 that we're using is a general instructing number. Sometimes there's different education numbers and stuff like that. We actually have more than one NAICS number. We have multiple. I think it's about 7, and I'll show you that a little bit later on. So one of the very first things you also definitely need to do is definitely get a capability statement. The capability statement is a one-page document that you would provide to the procurement person, telling them about your business and why they should select you than other companies that are out there. It should be short, nice, and sweet, and to the point. You can provide some of your certifications, the memberships that you have, and the awards that you've gotten. A brief general overview highlights the classes that we teach. Sometimes we do put costs and stuff like that in there. Um, some of the companies that you've already taught for, and then the history about your company too. If you try putting too much stuff in there or make it 2 pages, most of the time, remember the procurement person is seeing tons and tons of solicitations every single day, so they'll usually, unfortunately, just put that off to the side. If you need a blueprint of our capability statement, we do have a comprehensive, um, all the documents are in one folder for $100, and basically you just switch the wordings around and stuff like that depending on what your company does and things like that. This is one of the pages that's provided for their procurement and the things that they need. So the cover letter, you can once again explain why you should be selected. Signature pages, who owns the business, operating agreements and stuff like that, and of course the regular index page. The actual price proposal, which I'll explain a little bit later on. We'll actually go pretty deep into pricing and proposals. As I said, you can utilize this for any type of business. I'm going to do a blueprint for a CPR AED, but you can use this for cleaning services. You can use this for welding, trading, construction. I mean, the government, you name it, they will buy it, basically. Representation and certification. Certification is a big one, especially if you're doing first aid. Most of our instructors are EMTs and above, so we keep all their files in a folder. So that way we can immediately send it to the procurement person with current certifications and stuff like that. The capability statement, which I just showed you, the technical proposals, this is the nitty-gritty stuff, how many classes, the classroom, how many space you need, if you need rental space, maybe sometimes you can contract other smaller businesses depending on how big the proposal is, and then the past performances, who have you actually certified before, what have you done, and the contacts for them too, almost like a reference page. So the operating agreement is basically how your company is structured, the ins and outs of its working, including the accounting, the treasurer, your deputy if you have one, and things like that. It's a pretty comprehensive legal document that's about 13 pages long, and that's basically if you were to die, somebody else will go into your place and be able to actually understand the structure of your company. This one was actually signed by a lawyer because we wanted to make sure that everything was, we dotted all the I's and the T's. And once again, as I said, this is a comprehensive blueprint that we can provide. Not that I'm trying to sell you things, but yeah, for $100, which is pretty good. You have a 10-10 business. This is what you sort of need for an 8A. There's different types of categories that you could fall under. So you can fall under the business minority, women's minority. You can fall under the 8A program, which I'll explain maybe in another video if people are interested. I highly recommend that you use the 8A. You get to go into a specialized category for about, I think, 8 to 9 years with a non-compete against the bigger companies. So, you know, the people who are making millions and millions of dollars, if you're only making maybe $10,000-$20,000 a year, you go into the 8A program, which takes about 6 months. It is very tedious, but once you're in that program, you're in it for a long time, and as I said, you know, you don't have that as much competition. You have veterans-owned businesses, and then you have disabled veterans-owned businesses. As of now, there's so many people that are claiming veterans that it's actually what some people are saying hurting them because the market has just been inundated with them. And then there's about, I think, 12 other subcategories and stuff like that that you can choose. This is the actual 8A form. As you can see, it's pretty comprehensive. It's financial documents and stuff like that. So personal financial documents and also business financial documents that you will need. And once again, we can provide these forms for you in terms of the things that you need. The government is very, they want to make sure, especially as a small business, that when you do take on a contract, do you have the employees in place to actually provide the business, because sometimes they pay a little bit up front and then they pay the rest afterwards. Sometimes they pay everything up front and then they expect you to carry it out. So if they only pay a little bit up front, they want to make sure that you're actually able to provide the classes out of your own dime in the beginning until they're able to pay you afterwards. And that's why they definitely do look at your financial documents. This is just to make sure that you're not a criminal, and that you have no outstanding debts and stuff like that, including if you owe taxes personally as a business owner to the IRS. Sometimes they might either incur penalties for you, not like financial penalties, just say, hey, you need to pay off your um, finances to the IRS before we actually can accept you into certain programs and stuff like that. And then you have the Sba Form 912. This is a statement of personal history, things about you and stuff like that as a business owner to make sure that you're actually a person. This is another legal form that you'll need to be able to fill out. And this is about the business profile. So all the business information, EIN number, the insurance, a workers' comp, state taxes if you work in multiple states, foreign entities if you work in different states besides your home state, and a bunch of other legal documents. Oh, this is just so they want to make sure that your business is in good standing. So this is just a letter stating that the business is in good standings. Let me see here. So yeah, here it says the limited liability company is current in the payment of the registration fees. And then this is the office clerk. Let me see what this. Oh, this is just saying that we paid and that we're actually a registered company and stuff like that. So those are just some of the forms that you need. As I will say again, we have a bundle of the forms. Here we go. Alright, so once you have all those documents, which takes quite a bit of time to get, but it will make sure that the proposals will run seamlessly, and it will actually make sure that you have a structure in place for your company if you don't already do so. Then we're actually going to go into bidding for some of the bids. So the federal government does not run on a calendar year. When it comes to when they should usually spend money, it's usually August to October, the end of the fiscal years and stuff like that, or the government fiscal year. And I should say the federal government's fiscal year, because some people will bid on the state governments and there's county and stuff like that, but their fiscal years may range differently depending on your location and stuff like that. So this is for the, as it says right here, U.S. federal contracting registration. So I'm going to go into the search filters. I'm going to put in wilderness first aid, and then I'm going to say apply filters. If I want to just specifically select an overall code, the code that we're classified under the 311, whatever the code was, then we'll click here. But then it will list all the trainings that the government wants, not just specifically what we're trying to do. So witness first aid. Of course, now my computer's working slow. So the first one, which is the most recent, 5/11 2021, emergency preparedness first aid training. So this source is sought. It's the agency is Health and Human Services Department of, or it doesn't say, or it will say in the actual entity of it. Oh, so the NAICS number is the 611699, and that's usually most of the medical trainings are listed under that code. So we also sell equipment, medical equipment, so we would not use this NAICS code, we'll use a different code. So depending on what you actually teach or do, you may want to type in just how I did it, different categories, and then look at what the actual NAICS number or the coding is, and that's how we usually can find out. So here it says emergency preparedness first aid training services and supplies. It'll say when it's posted. It'll say when the response date is due. So these are usually pretty fast. As you see here, it was opened on the 11th. The response date was on the 12th, and then it was closed in June. Oh, so this was through NIH. Okay, so here's the description and stuff like that. So right here, they're looking through 8A or a disabled veteran-owned business has priority, which is pretty good. So if you fit into one of these two categories, that means they're more likely to actually pick you, which is a plus. And that's why these categories are so important, but they also take a pretty long time to do. This is the scope of the training. And then when you get into the weeds of it, this is the technical stuff that they talked about before. The basic first aid classes, 10 students. They want two classes. American Heart Association AED class, they want two classes, 15 students max. First aid, CPR, first aid and AED combo classes. Here you go. Stop the bleed, one quantity, 1 hour non-certification lecture sessions. So sometimes they do training just to, the people are already certified, but they want to offer a refresher course. And so that's 6. And then quarterly first aid inspections and refills, which is 4. This is the contractor's information and stuff like that, on what they expect, on what they require. So here, possess a current American Heart Association instructor status, minimum of 10 years in uninterrupted, BLS instructor status, and a bunch of other things which I won't get into. This is the first aid kits and stuff like that. In terms of the equipment that they actually need in the first aid stuff, definitely look into the weeds of what you're actually trying to bid on, not the overall objective, because you might miss some big ticketed items that you may not bill the government for, which would be unfortunate. So here we go. They have this whole section and stuff like that. They may not have all this information in the actual description. Then you would go into the attachments. Most of the time, especially if it's DoD, Department of Defense, they would have attachments and stuff like that. So the contact information is also pretty important, and we used to do this when we were a smaller company and we couldn't bid with larger contracts and stuff like that. So we knew we were a small company in the beginning, so we would actually send out emails, and we would email, like for instance, these two people, or we would even call them. We'd introduce ourselves, say, hey, we're a small business. We do medical certifications. If you're if you need someone else in the long run, please let us know, and we'll be able to provide those services. So just by making that networking or interaction, they will or they might remember you, versus you just some Joe Smo bidding, and these are the actual solicitors most of the time. So these are the people that who are actually making the decision. Um, and with this, sometimes we got the smaller contracts because up to a certain amount, the government doesn't need to send out bids. It's only up to a certain amount. So we could get sometimes the smaller crumbs and not have to bid, just by making this small interaction or by sending it these two people an email. So that was a big plus. And sometimes we would call them. Most of the time, unfortunately, they're busy. But making that interaction and starting that network is very, very important. Or if you want any more details, sometimes you will email it out. But if you email out the details or asking for details, make sure it's not already on here, because if it's already on here, they're just going to move you to the side, because they're like, well, the people didn't read the information, so we're not going to have them bid. You can be blacklisted for the federal government contractors and stuff like that. And that is very, I wouldn't say that's very bad. That's very detrimental. That's a big deal. So that's one of the ways in terms of bidding. That's just the overall view. I'm using a special U.S. federal contractors registration. This is not how the actual government site works. The government site that they have is very antiquated. I mean, literally, they're running on like a 1995 Windows system and stuff like that. But this one sort of feeds all those contracts into a specific portal, which this is, and so it's a lot more conducive and easier for us to understand. So one of the things also that you might want to do is search for vendors. And as I was saying before, you can get smaller vendors, form a group together to bid on bigger contracts, and sometimes that works. And then also, which not many people know, is we actually researched some of our competitors' businesses, and then we'd actually call the owner, and we'll say, hey, what worked for you, what didn't work for you. It was almost like a mentorship or counseling sessions. We offered them, lunch and stuff like that, and just to um, ask them different questions and stuff like that. So this lists out all your competitions, other vendors and stuff like that, and also how much they've won in terms of the contracts and stuff like that. So let me see here. There's a CPR business. So here are all the companies. Let's just say here. So this is set aside. It's A2, woman-owned business. This is in California. So these people haven't won any contracts and stuff like that too. And this is all public information. So you can see how much they won. Oh, and then you can see the different NAICS codes that I was talking about. Yeah, Child and Youth Services, they definitely need first aid, CPR, AD, um, certifications and stuff like that. So you can hit some of these things. So based upon looking at other people's businesses and how they're structured, you can sort of mimic what they're doing. So that way it allows you to, yeah, maybe get even more contracts and stuff like that. So researching your competitors and stuff like that is important. Except don't research us. No, I'm just joking. Um, so yeah, there's a lot more information that you can learn and stuff like that. I'm going to see if I can make another video. If this video was helpful for you, please definitely like and subscribe. It does make a difference. And then also maybe comment below on some of the other things that we could make videos about in terms of government contracting. This was a very fast blueprint, I know, and hopefully later on I can make other videos. Oh, if you have any questions, please definitely comment on the link, or not on the link below, but comment below, and we will try to answer them as much as we can. Thanks so much.